just go online on YouTube as well now. You can just press the button. Yeah. So yeah, I think we're gonna just start with the introduction while I mean more attendees are joining. So yeah, hello everyone. I'm gonna introduce briefly NeuroTechDesign, this event that we are doing and the BCI guys. So for you who are familiar faces now, you're gonna just listen to the same introduction again, but in brief, NeuroTechDesign is just an open-ended series, which is an initiative by myself and NeuroTechBCN, the Barcelona Chapter of NeurotechX, where we host people working at the intersection of neurotechnology, neuroscience, and design. But this session is going to be a bit special, where we're not hosting purely designers working in neurotechnology, but the aim of this session is to actually break the barrier between people who are non-experts or from outside the neurotech kind of space, and then understand how we can approach these things, what's happening in that circle, and then know more about the basics. So for this, I'm today hosting the BCI guys, Harrison and Colin, who are researchers, entrepreneurs, and educators. In that sense, they will introduce their work after I finish presenting them. So they founded the BCI Guys as a media company dedicated to exactly this same cause we're talking about, removing the barrier between people, and then this increasing interest in the field of neurotechnology, which has been growing a lot since the last 10 years. So I mean, I'm gonna ask the guys to actually introduce a bit of their initiative and what they're doing before they just kickstart the presentation. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have a little bit of that when we get into the presentation, but again, thank you for us for the introduction, and to NeuroTechX BCN for having us. This is really exciting. But yes, so we are the BCI guys, and here, I'll just go right here. So we are the BCI guys. I'm Harrison over on the right, and then Colin is on the left, and we are neurotech researchers and entrepreneurs and educators, motivated to help create the brain-controlled future. And so, as we'll get into in a little bit, we created the BCI guys to try to break down that barrier of very complex technology, neurotechnology, make it easier to get into and understand, because we think it's really important and kind of the future. So just our background, Colin and I met in 2018 when we created a research organization at our university, the Rochester Institute of Technology in New York State. And so it was the first entirely student-run research group, but it was technically, and it's still going on, technically a research organization. So we got some funding and a few lab spaces, which was really exciting, working with EMG and EEG technologies to help increase accessibility. So that was our start together, but before then, Colin had interned at OpenBCI, and afterwards, last year, he taught a course in neurotechnology, which was exciting, again, with our mission to around getting more people into the space. And then we've also done lots of events and given lots of talks on the subject of neurotechnology. This was me doing a TEDx talk last year.
Yeah, so one of our main goals with the BCI guys is to accelerate the growth of the industry by inspiring sort of this new generation of neurotechnologists, creating, general consumer educational content, and creating informative, educational, and engaging multimedia content. We found that, with 2020, with the COVID-19 stuff going on and stuff, education really shifted from this whole in-person, and this actually directly affected me as I was teaching at RIT, because, it's hard to switch from an in-person class where you have, electrodes placed on people's heads to a sort of an online class. So we wanted to start creating educational content specifically that is easily consumed online, and that sort of led to this partnership with NTX and with NeuroTechEDU. So what's the main problem with neurotechnology within media right now? A lot of people would say that, well, it's scary, right? So you see things like Black Mirror episodes where people have seizures because of a brain-computer interface, or changes their perception to such a degree that it creates psychological issues, or even, famously Dr. Octopus with his robot arms, taking over Dr. Octopus and making him crazy and that sort of thing. So one of our main goals with neurotech and our educational content is to sort of shift that mindset, make it more realistic, show what has been done in the field, and sort of peel back this veil that's been put over the neurotech industry. And we hope to do that with educational content, like we've mentioned, and we also have been creating content that looks at popular culture, looks at media like Black Mirror episodes, The Matrix, movies like The Matrix, and delving into that and sort of ranking it on a plausibility scale. Is this possible now? Will it be possible in the future? What scientific evidence is there to say that this is possible or this isn't possible? So that's been a large part of our content creation up to this point.
Yeah, and I mean, just again, like the public perception might not be great of neurotechnology, but the things that you can do with it medically, and then the implications for future of interfaces is really, really positive. So we wanted to share that.
So like I said, one of our biggest goals here is to increase education around the neurotechnology field. Talk about, so like if you're, a college freshman and you're interested in brain computer interfaces, but you see the term electroencephalography, the first instinct I think a lot of people have is that's a big word. What, this might be too much for me. So our goal is to really take that sort of, like I said, that veil and lift it and sort of make it easier for people to understand neurotechnology at a higher level, and sort of do that heavy lifting for them. There's a lot of research papers and stuff out there that if you're interested in getting into neurotechnology, you'll have to read through and you'll have to spend hours amassing sort of a background knowledge in order to understand the field. We'd like to cut down that time for people and make it way easier for them to just understand the big picture, understand what's been done, how they did it in a very simple sense, and then get that content circulating and grow interest in the neurotechnology field as a whole. That's another huge mission of the BCI guys, is to help contribute to the growth of this blooming industry. And it's very interesting stuff. We think that people would find it interesting. It's just how do you get it in front of the general consumer, and that's sort of what our goal is here. Yeah, and also showcase some of the really awesome stuff that has been done already. So there's so much positive development done for people with disabilities, with people in locked in states and that sort of thing. Sort of shedding a light and shining a spotlight on the people who have worked so hard to make those things happen is another important part of the BCI guys. And this is what I was talking about in the last slide, is we sort of want to be this frontward facing face of the neurotechnology industry. That's sort of our goal here. Create awareness around for the general consumer, create awareness for people who might not otherwise have been interested in brain computer interfacing just from thinking about it, but maybe they're browsing through their feed and they see an interesting video of us controlling a robotic arm, or of somebody in industry who's developed something that allows somebody to walk again with the use of an exoskeleton or something like that. So like I said, our big goal here is to help contribute to the growth of this industry from a marketing perspective, so that in the future, that there's an established industry, there's an established market for future brain computer interface companies, neurotechnology companies to grow and excel into, expand into.
Yeah. Think like Mark Rober for some of the projects, and SciShow. Just we want to get people excited, introduce them, and then pass them off to someone like NeurotechX when they want to engage a little bit more. So we've piloted a couple of videos. We put these out in August and into September. The first one was kind of what Colin was talking about before, with analyzing the feasibility of the matrix. On the top right, doing some news reporting and then some inspirational content down below. But this was all kind of getting our feet wet with video production to go ahead and work on our first major project, which is a collaboration with NeuroTechX and ArcZero Technologies to create the first like high quality produced neurotechnology course to help people that are just getting in understand what the technology is. And I assume you're all familiar with NeuroTechX, but it's a massive community organization that runs, all of these great events like this one. And then I'm just going to read from ArcZero's bio. They're a technology company that does research technologies, and it's a contracting company which provides research, organizational services to various organizations and creates software and technologies for research with the goal of supporting equal access and improved quality of life. And they're at ArcZero Tech. Wanted to mention that because Forrest, their president, is in the audience here. But anyway, so about the course, back to the course, it is 100% free. So we co-funded this with NeuroTechX, and we wanted to do that because we feel that this needs to be free. The first thing, it's all about getting people in. So we wanted to make it accessible. There are 9 lessons. Each lesson is going to be introduced every week. The launch of the course is on the 19th of February, so only 6 days away. And then there are going to be 2 options for taking the course. Again, both of them free. You can watch the YouTube videos, which will either be on the NeuroTechEDU platform, the revised version, or on YouTube. And so you could just watch those videos and get a good intro. It's going to take about 5 or 6 hours to get all the way through it. Or there is written content as well that's going to be updated, and that will be on the NeuroTechEDU platform. One more thing to mention is that it's a living course. So we're going to continue to update this over time, producing supplemental videos and written content as well. So if anybody in the community has an idea of something that should be in the course or a modification that they want to make, please send that to us and we'll give some contact information after. So yeah, you can also follow us on our Instagram and Twitter at BCI Guys, and then our website is there, www.bciguys.com for updates, but we'll be pushing a lot of that out on social media. NeuroTechX will help with that.
So here's sort of a mock-up of what we envision this to look like on the NeuroTechEDU platform, the revised NeuroTechEDU platform. Obviously, a big component of this course is the video content. So that's probably going to be featured prominently on each course there. We also have, like Harrison mentioned, some written content that these courses will have to supplement sort of the more basic video content, the more broad basic video content with specifics. So definitions, any references to papers that people can read through that should help with their understanding of a specific topic. So for example, if we're talking about the motor areas of the brain, how are those founded? Or how are those found? That sort of thing. Getting that from from more of a broad perspective down to a more specific perspective in the written content.
Yeah, I want to mention too that this is not going to be the last of the courses coming out, whether we're co-producing them or not. NeuroTechX wants to have a lot of courses down the pipeline so that people can actually get certified in neurotechnology knowledge, which is very cool. And so you can start with some basic courses and then move your way up to some advanced ones.
Here's just some action shots of our videos. So here's a skit that we were doing. It's just a general picture of one of the shots, the video, and obviously there's some overlays that we do as well. So it's the content creation quality for these videos is quite high in contrast, I guess, to our earlier videos. Our earlier videos were like Harrison said, sort of a proof of concept, whereas this is more of a specific getting into a more professional and at higher quality video. The topics of this course are very broad, like I mentioned. They're very simple. The goal here is to be as accessible to as many people as possible. So we don't get too far into the weeds, although we do touch pretty much every part of neurotechnology, I think, from our perspective. Our first lesson is, what is neurotechnology? Give a broad overview of the field, what's been done, that sort of thing. We then get into the history of neurotechnology, talk about how things like EEGs were initially created, how they were found, that sort of thing. We talk about neuroanatomy. So we talk about the different parts of the brain that do different things, talk about, the motor areas of the brain, the somatosensory areas of the brain. We then get into some more neuroscience topics, talking about how neurons work, that sort of thing, how action potentials work. We then talk about the different types of neurotechnologies, so like invasive versus non-invasive, how they work, get into sort of the components of a BCI, what makes a BCI a BCI. We talk about neuromodulation, both with pharmaceuticals and stimulatory devices. Talk about brain enhancements. So how could you use these devices to theoretically enhance cognition, enhance memory, that sort of thing. We then specifically talk about brain-computer interfaces for a whole lesson. So that's anything that can write out sort of to a like a robotic prosthetic, like a wheelchair, an exoskeleton, things that are taking this very cool technology and putting them practically in use. And then most importantly, we talk about ethics and philosophy here at the end. We think that it's super important for anybody who's interested in this field to get get their fingers wet in this in the ethical discussion, because we think it's important for the future of the field that's sort of the first thing that people are thinking about. And then we talk about major industry players like Neuralink, OpenBCI, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and so again, when Colin's saying that this is simple, we wanted to make it accessible, and so we really do try to touch every part of the neurotechnology industry, have some interesting imagery in there, some really cool experiments, and it's quite broad. So we go into a little bit of detail for each one, but it's to give people a base knowledge. And there's no coding or anything in this course. We'll have stuff later on that covers some of that, but that way it can be from everyone who's interested, just getting started, whatever your background is, you'll be able to take something away from this. And of course, if there are any terms on here that you don't know yet, they will be covered in the course. But yeah, as Colin was saying, I had a lot of fun working on the neuroethics and philosophy course. I think we both did. The neuroethics one, that can kind of be a little bit dry, I think. So what we ended up doing is taking each topic and likening it to like a dystopian like Black Mirror episode or movie, and talking about how those abuses are presented in real life. And then the philosophy one was really interesting to engage about some questions of what is the mind and cyborg and all of that stuff. So I actually would love it if you guys can try to answer this question. It's a little bit difficult for sure, but in your words, you can go ahead and type in the chat or turn your microphone off. What is a cyborg? What does that term mean to you? And this is something that we
let me jump in here. Everybody, you're just part of this conversation, so literally just feel free to unmute yourself and jump in. I can start. What is a cyborg? I can say my grandma.
Your grandma? Why is that?
I mean, she has one device that goes with her heart and one for her to listen. Mm-hmm. So she's definitely a cyborg.
Yeah, so just kind of any device that is implanted, is that kind of what you're thinking, that's helping augment a function? Is that your definition?
Yeah, I mean, for me, as long as we just like cyborg is just augmented self, right? So when you augment yourself with any technology, then you become a cyborg.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, and so in the course, we don't want to prescribe a definition for sure, but we talk about there are kind of two schools of thought on very different ends. So one of them is like what you see in sci-fi, right? Which is the half human, half robot, very visibly a cyborg. Maybe it means that you have to have a device implanted in you, like your grandmother. But on the other end of that spectrum, there are people that believe that anytime you use a piece of technology, even a simple technology, I'm holding up a pen, I don't know if you can see, that you're in some essence a cyborg, because your brain makes that a part of you, part of its mental model. And so it's an interesting question, and it's something that's going to become more and more relevant as we start augmenting our thoughts and what we can do and how we interact with technology. And so the other one is, what is in your opinion, and feel free to dream a little bit, what is the coolest future use case of a brain-computer interface? And if nobody wants to talk, I'm putting Faraz back on the spot because you had a really cool answer to this when we talked earlier in the week. But please, even if it's like a couple words or something that you think, go for it.
Anybody from the audience? I see Victor is here. I'm sure Victor has a lot of ideas.
Put on the spot, Victor.
Sorry guys, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was doing the dishes. What was the question?
The question is on the screen here. So in your opinion, and feel free to dream a little bit, what is the coolest future use case of a brain-computer interface?
Oh, okay. What I So I had this thought for a long time, and I also saw it in Cyberpunk. And for me, that's the coolest one, is slowing down time. And probably this is one of the most difficult ones. And I don't even have a handle on it. I've been thinking about it, how you would do that, like have shortcuts between peripheral or sensory areas and higher order associative areas, maybe. Well, probably that. The other one would be to somehow delegate. Well, I'm not going to go into that. It's not that clear of a thought. But yeah, I think that's for me. That's the coolest.
Sure. Thanks.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you so much.
I think like Mercedes said, like could be a translation of senses, very helpful for inclusive design. And I would add something that could trigger out like the conversation afterwards, which is actually brain-to-brain communication as well. So we can leave it here with this.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's all interesting. Forrest, I saw you unmute yourself. Do you have something?
Yeah, I actually have an answer to this question as well that really excites me right now. So you all know about virtual reality, right? So imagine if one day you could integrate your senses and your ability to control things with your brain into your control of just everyday technologies, just like anywhere you go, you just walk around and you're fully immersed and connected to everything. That to me seems like the coolest future use, where like you can just freely control things without having to connect things up in a bunch of crazy wires and nonsense.
I've got a spoiler for you. We're hosting someone working on exactly that within the next month.
Cool. Are you
talking about Dustin Tyler?
Cool.
No. He's actually an architect working on his PhD project.
Very cool. That's awesome.
Oh, interesting. I highly recommend, by the way, you reach out to the HFI people at Case Western and the Functional Neural Interface Lab, because they may be really interesting people to talk to about this.
Cool. All right, we'll get into more of that in the discussion, but thank you everyone for the answers. So yeah, I mean, the thing to note is that there are a lot of varying questions and really interesting questions. And so we've been talking to a lot of people, whether it's researchers or students in the fields or entrepreneurs, and everybody has a different answer to a lot of these questions based on their backgrounds. And so the next big project that we're working on is going to be called We Are NeuroTech. And we're going to make a website that looks a lot like Zoom. So we'll make it more like just a kind of a general video conferencing thing. But the idea is that every one of these tiles will be someone's 90-second answer of a simple question like, how did you get into neurotech? Or the two questions that we just asked before. And I think it's going to be a really cool matrix to see kind of where everybody is and what the interests are in the space. And then this is what it'll look like when you click on a video. And so, yeah, just for general video ideas outside of a project, we want to do more media reviews. We're working on a Tinder swiper, so where you can use EEG or EMG winks to swipe right or left, and then talking about how that works. Racing some RC cars with EMG, firing some catapults. The idea here behind all these, again, is that they're a little bit silly, but just engaging people outside of the space to get them used to seeing this kind of technology. And so because this has a design focus, and I know that everyone here has a design background or at least is very interested in design, we want to talk very briefly on the experience of computing. I hope that we get to continue this into the discussion. But obviously design is a really, really important aspect of any new emerging technology, because that's the piece that gets people engaged. It's designing the interface and thinking through how that's going to work, or making it visually accessible or accessible in other ways. And so the very classic example is you think of, there were sort of smartphones like the BlackBerry before Apple dropped the iPhone, but when they did that, it was industry shattering and changed everything. And so that kind of cycles into the greater mission that Colin and I have, which is we want to start a consumer neurotechnology company, or really just a technology experience company that is looking towards the next steps of what human-computer interaction looks like. So we see neurotech as sort of the pinnacle of that, but there are certainly lots of other technologies that integrate into that. But just imagining to the future, kind of similar to what Forrest was saying, being able to step into an interface and instead of interacting with data on two-dimensional screens, to actually have some sort of tactile feedback, to feel it, an emotional response. I think that that's much more human than the ways that we interact with right now, and it could, really accelerate the pace of other technological development. Of course, some of that's a little bit out there, but that's the direction that we want to move in. And so this is kind of the reason why we created BCI Guys too. Again, getting more people in and interested, but also for us to position ourselves in the future to start that type of a company and have people be engaged in that.
Yeah, so how do we get from here to there? In order to do so, we have to have some sort of sustainability model for the BCI guys. And because of that, we offer things like sponsored content for specific companies. So for example, our goal is to partner with other companies other than NeurotechX, as well as continuing to partner with NeurotechX, and continue to branch out into the neurotech field and creating content for bigger neurotech companies. Any revenue that we generate from these companies goes right back into the BCI guys. We believe that we have an editor that we really has done a great job at editing our NeuroTechEDU videos that we'd like to keep on board, and we'd like to be able to pay him better. We'd like to have a sort of social media marketing budget, which we have had a very basic budget for it right now, but it's not obviously it's very expensive to promote content on the internet. So we just want to make sure that anything we generate from that goes right back into the BCI guys. We just opened up a Patreon page. So if you're interested, patreon.com/BCI guys, that'll keep you updated on all of the content that we create from here on, as well as sort of giving us a way to communicate directly with our more engaged fans, I guess, the people that are more engaged with the channel. And we also have merchandise. We sell t-shirts, mugs, socks, stickers. So if you're interested in checking out any of our content, just go to the www.bciguys.com, or you can just search the BCI guys on YouTube. We have links to all this stuff there.
Feels a little weird to talk about that. Again, we're not trying to make profit from this. We're just trying to keep it going so that we can continue to make content for you.
We are not in profit.
Maybe after you watch the course. But yes, anyway, thank you.
But
go ahead, Colin.
Just the general idea is, continuing to expand this very small business that we've created, and hopefully grow along with the industry as the industry continues to grow, as a market, basically.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you again so much to Faraz, to all of you for listening, and to NeuroTechX. It was really cool to talk to you guys, and we'd love to engage with you if you have any questions or anything like that. So thanks.
Yeah. Any questions? Open up the floor, I guess.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm gonna definitely start with having a short conversation with you guys. But everybody here, just feel free to jump in and engage in the conversation or ask any question. So yeah, I'd like to just start from two things. One thing is talking a bit about the ethics, and the other one just to run a simulation here. Okay, so hey guys, I have no idea what is neurotechnology, what's neuroscience. I just saw a Neuralink video. How do I get there, right?
Yeah, so talking about how the technology develops or what Neuralinks can be able to do, what's your...
No, how can a person who has like literally zero knowledge within this domain just approach this topic at least?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem, right, that we're trying to solve with NeuroTechEDU, right? Is there's so much information out there, but it's really technical and really in depth, and it's really difficult to digest as somebody who doesn't have any prior experience. I mean, personally, I started looking at neurotech just browsing through OpenBCI's forums, but we hope that the answer to that becomes you watch our videos on YouTube, watch our NeuroTechEDU videos, the foundations of neurotechnology. Go ahead. Harrison.
Yeah, no,
Very
I mean,
good.
just echoing that. So it's a really broad field, right? There's need for pretty much everyone, whether it's designers or computer scientists or, electrical engineers, business people, everything. And as Colin said, it is so complex and difficult to get into. And so Neuralink right now is, if people have, neurotechnology experience, that's great. But for the most part, neurotechnology companies need to hire someone that doesn't necessarily have a background in this. Interest is good, but that's difficult. If you're hiring someone for computer science, you now have to teach them neuroscience in the job. And so the goal with all of this is to train people specifically for that. So if we can have certifications and start putting courses in universities, then that's step one. But really, wherever you are, you're needed. And so just start
Get
do
engaged.
some of your own research, get engaged. We would say the course, but there are plenty of other things that you can do to engage the NeuroTechX community, all that stuff. We had something in the chat. Oh, we have a lot of things in the chat. What are we doing? Thank you.
Yeah.
Want the socks? Yes. Excellent process of being. Yes, exactly. So yeah, there's a lot of technology that's stuck in the research realm that would be really beneficial to get out. So yeah, I mean, again, wherever you are, there are entry points, and you can also contact us for specific guidance with that.
Yeah. And coming from a background, which, I mean, I'm an architect and a designer, basically. So coming from this background, I mean, I started understanding and tried to learn and get into all these things by myself 5 years ago, because this kind of work didn't exist back then. And then, I mean, I remember just calling. I mean, I literally just called NeuroTechEDU, which is like a really big company.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, "Hey, I want to collaborate with you." Like, who are you, right? And then,
Yeah.
I mean, I really wish that I knew where to go when I was doing this, because I mean, and that's like the bigger part of why I'm hosting you guys here, is that I mean, it's very important for designers to know that, like, okay, we have a place to go to learn the basics at least, and then get into the community and understand how to, I mean, just have a base on how to navigate afterwards within this space, because a lot of the things we use as designers, or the ideas that we have, especially in relation to neuroscience, are I mean, are largely embedded within just like the first foundational block of the knowledge in this. And then, I mean, just like stepping on the NeuroTechX model, where it's always, I mean, we have a community and a knowledge base. And then once you get yourself into the community and then have access to this knowledge base, then, I mean, just crossing these two and having collaborations can really produce innovation in that sense. So this was the main driver behind this.
Yeah, so if I can revise my answer a little bit, then yes, I mean, the need for designers is there, as we talked about, and very strong, because a lot of this stuff, as Forrest was saying in the chat, is stuck in the research realm. And a lot of that is because the interface or the ideas that can be built on top of that is just not commercializable. And so as designers with trained in design thinking and thinking about how this can directly impact consumers and directly impact people, and understanding, kind of what makes people tick is really, really important. So again, specifically, if you're interested in this, the NeuroTechX NeuroTechX like community Slack is a great place to start, because you can reach out to people. They actually have a careers board there, where you can look at that. But also, if you, depending on what type of designer you are, you might work on some portfolio items, like what you might think a brain-computer interface application might be. And then I would just start reaching out to companies, and if they have a posting for a designer, that's great. But otherwise, you could reach out and say, hey, it would be really cool to do this type of thing with your device. Or if you can get your hands on it for some cheaper consumer stuff, play around with it as well. Make some posts. I mean, if it's cool, we'll promote it. So, do that, and then you might get picked up by a company that way, or get some cool partnerships.
Definitely. And there's the other point, which I think is very important, and then this is something that like most of the designers like, is to actually get their hands on things that don't belong to us as designers. So I mean, just think about 10 years ago, or 10 is too soon. I mean, 20 years back, when we actually had 3D printers, and then designers wanted to play with these things. So I think it's very important to have these kind of technologies and hardware and wearable products in the hand of non-experts. So, I mean, what happens when you put like an EEG device in the hands of a designer, right? It's very interesting to know what they would do with that. But like for them to do anything at all, I mean, like a minimal knowledge is required, and this is what you guys are trying to deliver as well.
Yeah,
Right.
in some cases it's almost better. Like that's why we're doing the We Are Neurotech thing, because like it's good to have the perspective of someone that's been in the industry for 20 years and then someone else that doesn't necessarily know it's possible, but it's like, hey, wouldn't this be cool? And then you play around with it, you learn, and then maybe you get some, you know, crazy idea that ends up being really cool. Yeah.
Maybe you want to tell us a bit more about like the process of preparing your episodes. I mean, I'm sure you do some research, right? So, I mean, I'm sure you do a lot of this. So, and I know this. So, I'd like people to know more about like your, I mean, research methodology. Where do you look? Where do you dig in to find your information? So, where is the information you're telling people coming from? And then why do you look there? What are interesting references you found? Some interesting stuff that you stumbled upon on the way.
Sure. So we're both fortunate in that we both have a background with brain-computer interfacing. Obviously, you know, I worked at OpenBCI, and Harrison's major is neurotechnology. So we were fortunate to have sort of that baseline understanding of neurotechnology and neuroscience. So we sort of built off that, but we also had a awesome team of content writers that we assembled back in, was it July or August? We start back in summer. That we assembled, that includes Forrest and so quite a few people actually, that we all sort of got together. We created a rough draft of what we were thinking in terms of the content. So we created sort of an outline of what we wanted to cover, all the topics we wanted to cover. Then we assigned specific subjects to specific people, got some first drafts out. Then we went through an actual vetting process. So we actually went through the content, made sure everything that was said was factual, and you know, just did a general crap test to make sure things weren't written awkwardly or anything like that. And then we had a process where we had to take all these huge paragraphs of written content and turn those into actual scripts.
And that written content, yes.
Yes, it's a good point. So the written content is very technical. It's very in depth. How do we take that and make it consumable from like a video perspective? That was actually one of the biggest challenges because we didn't want to lose material. We didn't want to lose important information, but we, you know, also didn't want to. There's a point when you're watching a lecture video, like a poorly made lecture video, where you're staring at the video and the information is coming in one ear, but your brain's sort of not even, because it's just a lot of terms and a lot of concepts. So we wanted to sort of stagger our videos and create sort of a cadence to each of our videos that allowed people to stay engaged, created different visual stimuli to keep people interested, rather than just us listing things for 10 minutes of video.
Absolutely, because they're getting to some big terms. But yeah, I mean, in the early process, I mean, we referenced and read almost 200 papers or resources for this course, which was a lot of work. We went through, we cut out all of the stuff that we wanted and then sort of puzzle pieced that together for what we wanted the course to be. And then our process for individual videos is similar. You know, like the one for the Matrix, we watched that, highlighted a bunch of things that we wanted to do and took clips, and then found, you know, papers of how close can we get to where that is now and the future, but we always cite, you know, what we're doing with at least a couple of resources per thing to make sure that what we're representing is accurate and stuff.
NeuroTechEDU is an entirely different beast than our other videos too. Our other videos are much more casual, just sort of media reviews, sort of conversational between Harrison and I. We want to keep that going as well. That's going to be another part of BCI Guys moving forward. But NeuroTechEDU obviously was more of a make sure everything's 100% correct, make sure everything has been, vetted, and make sure that, because ideally, we're teaching people, so we want to make sure that that people, that we're putting out the correct information.
Right. Yeah, you just shared the Matrix video in the chat, which is
Awesome.
Quite interesting.
You get to see my my plague beard there from the pandemic.
No, I was like, please show Please share.
If we can just go fast on, I mean, I know that you mentioned this in the presentation, but I mean, like you definitely, I mean, introduce people to the concept of neurotechnology on the one hand, and then brain-computer interfaces, and then you mentioned several neuroscience terms such as neuromodulation, action potentials, and stuff like this. So can you just tell us briefly now about like all these things,
Sure.
so people get like just a brief introduction of what's covered at least?
Yes, so we'll go quickly through that. But yes, there are a lot of terms. All of them are well defined. I think we have over 100 definitions that pop up on the screen. But yes, so neuromodulation refers to changing the ways that neurons fire. So either it's trying to stimulate or inhibit them. So this has wide medical applications, from helping to stop seizures, reduce pain from damaged neurons throughout the body, help with depression, obesity. Like there are a bunch of applications that we go into. Then there are different types of brain interfaces. Some of them allow you to record brain activity, which can be used in research or for more consumer applications. Some allow you to stimulate, which again can be neuromodulation or sensory enhancement. Maybe like you've heard of the cochlear implants or a vision implant. That's a neuromodulation device or a neurotechnology device. And then we talk about there are non-invasive, which sit on top of your head, semi-invasive, which sits on your brain but not penetrating, and then invasive, which are actually electrodes that are implanted into brain matter. And the electrodes are what we use to record or stimulate brain activity.
Right. So what are you, I mean, now that you told us like what have you covered, do you have any plans to cover extra topics going forward?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so as we said, it's a living course. So
do you have an idea what are these topics for now, or not yet?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it's going to just be enhancements on the things that we've talked about. So we get into neuroprosthetics, so controlling robotic arms with your brain, or with electrical signals in your muscles, and driving wheelchairs, and entering into interfaces and a video game character. And so really a lot of the modifications to that, because we covered as much as we can think of is out there right now and where we think it will go. There was a lot of focus on the future. So just as these as the stuff advances, we'll make a quick video on it, pop it up. But,
so yeah. Just to test if I got this right, like, are you guys doing as well tutorials, like tech tutorials on how to do these things, or only just concepts and theory behind it?
In the future, yeah, that's going to be a big part of this content creation. We're in a weird place right now where we're still trying to finish up NeuroTechEDU and get some of this more high quality content out there. But those are all on the docket, yeah, for the future.
Mm-hmm. Yes, this is non-technical specifically, so you can just kind of watch it and understand, but then later on, work with EEG and stuff. But we didn't want to do that right now because there's so much more than what you can do at home. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do at home, but there's also, like broader research stuff like Neuralink. And so we wanted to make sure that was covered.
Yeah, because I think that's something. Yeah, it's at least, yeah, because I really think that there's a lot of hunger for tutorials that actually address beginners in that sense, because there's actually a lot that can be done at the beginner level. I mean, like how to record the data, how to get working with this data, at least like which consumer grade headset should I go for and why? This is definitely based on what do you want to use it for. So like all these questions, I think are really valuable questions that like most of beginners would have. Wait, some beginner level videos to the neurotechnology.
Yeah, that was for the research group. Forrest was a part of that as well. We did make some, but we will definitely do a lot of those to make sure that people know how to set up the devices. We talk about which ones to get a little bit at the end, but yes.
Yeah. So just like to get back, I was really interested on the project you showed, which actually kickstarted the whole thing, where you met Colin and you were working. So you can tell us more about this project. If you want, you can just go with the slides before to show it as well. Feel free to do that.
Yeah, I can get a picture up. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that was, we called that the Neurotechnology Exploration Team at RIT. Like Harrison said in the slides, it was the first student-run research organization in RIT's history. We were super excited to be a part of that. Essentially, I had done a startup at RIT, and I a few years before this started. And I was connected with somebody called an individual who's higher up in the biomedical engineering field at RIT, and he connected me with Harrison a few years later after the startup stuff was over, and that sort of led to this meeting that we had. We basically just got coffee and we talked about the future of neurotechnology, and we were super excited about it. So that led to this research organization. We actually went to they actually sponsored us going out to Dubai. That's where this picture was taken. We went to a Dubai Maker Fair, and we were awarded with Maker of Merit. We were there, which was super awesome. Yeah, it was a great time.
Yeah, and so what we were working on up to the end is all of our stuff was accessibility based, using non-invasive stuff. So we were just about to start a large-scale human subject trial to get data from about 90 participants. And unfortunately, with COVID, we had to put that on pause. But eventually, that will be used to collect motor imagery data, which is imagining yourself moving up, down, left, or right. Then we can use that to move a cursor around to select letters or drive a wheelchair for people that don't have the ability to do that due to paralysis or neuromuscular disorders like ALS.
Right. I should, I should just remind everybody that you can just jump in or put your questions in the chat if you have any. I mean,
yeah, but sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, no, go ahead.
So that research group was awesome. It opened a lot of doors for us. Like I said, I did end up teaching at RIT the following after I graduated, the year after I graduated. But of course, COVID ruins everything. So the class won't be. I don't think we're going to be offering it anymore because we transitioned sort of to a. Sorry.
I know you haven't heard that, but it's going to be a consistent thing. Dan's
is it?
But,
awesome. Jenny's taking it over, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, we have a professor, a faculty member taking it over and co-writing with him right now. But yes.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, it was a great experience. We hope to branch further out though and make this more of an online, sort of a worldwide thing, if possible.
Yeah. More reachable.
Awesome. Yeah, we can as well briefly talk about like the ethics of it, because for me, I've had like this conversation some days ago with Harrison at least, and then for me in general, like the ethical position that we should have on the topic is to actually go and check what's happening. So to go and to actually have enough knowledge about this technology and what's happening to actually be able to design a better future using this technology. Because if not, somebody else is going to do it. They're going to do whatever the heck they will do with it, even if we stay here discussing what should be the ethics for years, right? If we don't do it, somebody else is going to do it for us. So I was really interested to listen from you guys. What were your input from people with the topic of ethics during your research? What are the findings you found on this topic, and what are the different kind of points of views here?
Yeah, so there are obviously too many to cover in one video, so this will be the supplemental stuff. But the first thing that we focused on are vulnerabilities and abuses of the technology. So we're imagining forward a little bit, or even an example with your grandmother with the pacemaker or whatever device they were using. There are potential vulnerabilities, like what if that device was hacked or manipulated in some way that can obviously have catastrophic effects. You get a virus on your computer, it's really annoying. Maybe, it steals banking information, which is terrible, but you survive through that. And so it's really, really important that we think about how to make a system that is super robust against that. And then other things, making sure that we avoid, undue influence on people's thoughts. And then we prescribe some ways that researchers and futurists are thinking about mitigating this in the future. And then some ethical and moral issues, common concepts in research in general, human research, is informed consent, which is making sure that the person that is using this device is consenting to what is going on and knows the extent of that. And then respect for autonomy and respect for persons. So understanding, that each person is an individual and has, control over what's going on in their immediate surroundings. So just making sure that that's represented. And then we talked about some social issues, like if let's see, so like social issues and transhumanist dependencies. So obviously, if this stuff is really important, let's say it gives you allows you to have memories like instantly and learn 4 times faster, right? Everybody's going to want that, but in the beginning, it's going to be expensive, and so only the rich will be able to afford that, and that will sort of make 2 classes of thinking. And so we address that in some ways to try to combat that, to get ahead of that issue before you have a further divide between the rich and the poor, the rich and middle class. So yeah, those are the main things that we touch on.
Yeah, I mean, this definitely brings us to another, I mean, to a lot of topics. I think one topic that's becoming like a bit of a hot topic recently that, I mean, you might want to understand as well in your future videos is the whole thing of neurodiversity, and then how we deal with this, because we have a lot of people from a lot of, I mean, a very versatile kind of neural backgrounds. I mean, we're used to discuss backgrounds based on like physical abilities and racial backgrounds and stuff like this, but then we never actually speak about disorders or mental issues as like a kind of diversity kind of thing. So this could be as well like a potential topic for your future kind of videos for the public.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, we want to make sure that that everyone is represented, and so we'll have hopefully lots of guests, and then around, you know, that represent different ideas and different backgrounds. And then and I think that, you know, certain cognitive disorders, ADHD, maybe even Alzheimer's can be you know, fixed, or at least, you know, changed, and the treatment can be bettered with neurotech. But yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on because I know, for example, Mercedes, who's someone in this meeting, she's part of the participants as well. So she's currently kind of preparing or interested in working on some workshops for kids. Like, so not even for people who are like, I mean, who are graduates and want to play with these things, but like actually kids, like young kids. And then it's an interesting topic of how to actually approach the topic for these people, because these people have definitely no clue about anything. And then like she's been presenting some ideas which are cool to introduce some BCIs without these guys understanding what's a BCI in a very simple form, where they actually generate some graphics, generate some music, and stuff like this using video. So I mean, as well, I mean, this could be really introduced to the public on so many levels. So one, of course, is what you guys are doing, which is people who have a clue and then can self-learn at least. And then the other thing is to actually reach out to people from even more extreme backgrounds, which are actually just kids, right? So I mean, because I always wonder on what would neurotechnology education look in part when we get into schools, because I mean, sooner or later, just like computer session, I mean, our grandparents never had computer sessions at school. I mean, we all had a lot of computer sessions. So, I mean, perhaps in the future, we're going to have like a neurotech session, or at least part of the science. When you go to the lab, you know, you just play with some stuff related to neurotechnology. So, I mean, how to get this within the educational discourse, especially within school and within the very early years, is really something that interests me as well.
Yeah, I've actually spoken at several elementary schools and several middle schools on the subject as well.
Right.
And we're currently in talks with a local school district with making educational content for middle school kids around the subject. Like you said, you know, very basic stuff, not nothing too in depth, obviously. I think it's important to get people interested in this, you know, at a young age. You know, it's the same argument as talking to or as teaching coding to kids instead of teaching you know, typography or typing or cursive or whatever. Makes more sense to get, you know, kids engaged in that sort of logical thinking at a young age. And similar thought process, I think, with neurotechnology for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I do love typography, just for the record. Not cursive. I'll put cursive down. But yeah, I think that's true. I know that there are some devices. GTech has a unicorn device out there that's specifically designed for kids, and I believe Mind Effect BCI has a modification with like, I believe block coding. I'm not entirely sure on that, but I know that it's directed towards kids. So those are good places to start, and there are definitely things that you can do. I mean, we've gone to a bunch of maker fairs, and just kids love putting the thing on and be like, whoa, those are my brainwaves. What does that mean? What can I do? And you can make, you know, simple games or something that they can set up. I mean, there are even like consumer games that are out there right now. Another thing that that BCI Guys is working on is there is a small school in Nigeria that wants to be a neurotechnology school, which is really cool because they have some issues where there are only 20 neurosurgeons in a country of 200 million. And so I'm also giving some neuroscience lectures there and helping to make what that content looks like. They want to train kids from 10 to 18. So there will be, you know, we'll learn some stuff out of that as well in an environment where the resources are really, really restricted. So I think that might be interesting to see how that applies to other places. But, yeah.
It's funny, whenever we go to maker fairs, whenever we go to hackathons, and there are, you know, kids walking around and stuff, the first question they always ask us is, do you guys have a YouTube channel? So this sort of hopefully will play into that a little bit.
Yeah, we can answer yes. Yeah.
That's why you made it, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, somebody is saying who's or Ogundipe, if I read that right. He said, like, I'd love to hear more about the school. Can you share the name?
The school for the one in Nigeria?
Yeah, I guess so.
We're asking. It's called Neural Village. And so that's NEURA Village. And it is actually, I did an interview with the founder. We're working together, and so that'll be up in a couple weeks on the BCI Guys YouTube channel, so you can learn more about that, and we'll put a bunch of links to ways that you can help. But yeah, I mean, you know, they secured some space and funding, but it's not a lot. They need computers and hardware, and then of course just experts that can help train people. So if you're interested, keep an eye out for that video. But I can also put some links. Maybe you can send them out for us afterwards if people are interested.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely check that out. I'm sure. Yeah. So Akbar, yes, somebody is asking, like, what kind of challenges would we face in developing apps of neuro developing training? I'm not sure I got this right. But I think, yeah, what they mean is that, like, what would be the challenges that would arise trying to develop apps made for neuro training, right? So like apps that would actually train people on neuro topics.
Okay. So is that working with neurotechnology devices, or is that helping just people learn about neurotech?
So I think what's the challenge that, like, the challenges that would arise for you making an app to train people on neurotechnology?
Okay. Yeah, so let's see. Colin, do you have an answer for that? I can take a crack at it, but
so when you say app, do you specifically mean the NeuroTechEDU platform?
Yeah, I think what the person who answered is thinking is that, like, what if we could actually translate this kind of knowledge base or educational platform into something that looks more like an app with a user interface and a more playful and gamified kind of approach to it, and then
it's an interesting concept. I think that I mean, we had already talked about, you know, potentially creating a place on like an educational platform where you can plug your, you know, BCI, your Emotive, your OpenBCI board or whatever in, and then it, you know, syncs with the website, and, you know, you're able to accomplish coding tasks that way. So we've definitely thought about that. I would love to work on that a little bit more before I fully answer that, but I think that that's going to be the future of neurotech education for sure, making it a little bit easier, you know, to get into the actual programming suites. That's something that's really hard right now. It's like you start, so for example, with OpenBCI's GUI, in order to potentially, you know, understand where that data is coming from and how you're working on that data, you have to really delve into the code, and you have to know a good amount about coding in order to do that. So we're pretty interested in making that.
And I think it's actually a big challenge to actually create content that is made for I mean, like the general public as is. I'm saying, for example, if we were trying to facilitate in self-improvement, I'm not sure if I get this completely, but like maybe what they mean by self-improvement is applications related to neurofeedback, and then how to improve. I mean,
Yeah.
neural systems in that way. Yeah.
Okay. So actually, I'm going to answer this and the thing that we were talking about before. I'll finish that one up very briefly. So the Muse headset, which is a headset designed for meditation and actually neurofeedback, you can get that data and use it in an app. And there's an app that I know NeuroTechX co-produced that allows you to see that data. And so it would be very interesting to have a visual interface where you can learn to interact with that and actually do some very basic BCI work. So correlating the brain data to some sort of action within an app like that. And that's something that, you know, we might be interested in working on in the future or would be helpful. And then in terms of neurofeedback, so yes, neurofeedback, for anyone that doesn't know, is taking live brain data. So it could be like detecting when you're relaxing and then executing some sort of action on that, usually to train you to learn how to do some type of skill. So for meditation, the Muse headset, as an example, detects when you're getting more relaxed, when your neurons are synchronizing. And then it plays like music that is indicating that you're doing that. And so it trains you to get into that mindset. And so, you know, the biggest problems with that is that EEG, which is the main non-invasive, the cheap one to be able to use, has a lot of drawbacks, which we talk about in the course, but you know, it's not the most accurate. So as other technologies develop, that will get more, there will be wider use cases.
Less of a problem, yeah.
Does that answer the question? I'm sorry.
I guess so. We're just approaching the end. We actually just yeah. Hello, Amy. Happy to see you here. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of. Do you want to say something? You just unmuted.
Yes, actually, I'm very that last part. I mean, you guys, I'm not a neurotech. I'm also an interior designer. And but I am diving into how the senses, you know, and our space and we connect. And I was just wondering, when you guys are talking about the space that you are in all day, and but now you're talking about the experience of, for example, relaxing, and that you're aware how our brain, you know, functions, in the sense that if what we have outside, or there's specific devices that can start letting us know, like those type of things that you were saying, like try to get into music, or like with the space. Actually, that's my next question is like, how would you measure people in a space with warm colors or the cool colors, and how that impacts, but that we can measure it?
Yeah. So I feel like you could go in two directions with that, right? In terms of neurofeedback. So one, and we do talk about this a little bit in the course, to sound like a broken record, but one of those things that you can do is you could take that data, right? And you can, with EEG, detect emotion fairly well, or you can detect relaxation states. And so it would be interesting to change elements of the room, like lighting, to reflect how that person is feeling. And then maybe the other aspect, and there is research that is into this, is trying to see how colors, like maybe detecting when someone is stressed or anxious, and then changing the ambience in the room, right, to maybe relax them, or if you're in a business environment, maybe get people more awake and alert. Those types of things are definitely out there, and that's, you know, I think we'll add that into the supplemental content. So we talked about music with the brain, creating music from EEG patterns, but you could definitely do that with colors too. That's a really cool perspective.
Yeah, like you have like some, like right now, like maybe watches or something that you can put on, and then that people, but I mean, I'm just learning as I go with this series, that, you know, that there's these gadgets, I don't know how you call it, but is it really like a lot right now for all the consumers, or is it just very specific for research? That's my question.
Yeah, so there is a lot that's out there for that consumers can purchase right now. And so Colin can probably talk about this a little bit better than I can, but there is OpenBCI, which is a 3D printed device, which can run from like 300 to 800, I think, maybe a little bit more in some cases. Emotive, Muse, there are tons of sub $1,000 systems that you can buy and are somewhat plug and play. And honestly, correlating that to like ambient lighting or music in a room is actually quite one of the easier applications, and you could probably learn how to do that fairly quickly with a couple tutorials.
So then you will be able to demonstrate to the clients, like really, like in my case, because sometimes, you know, like they think that it's just maybe psychological, but I wanted to see, you know, how can I prove that to the clients?
Yeah, you could demonstrate in real time. One thing that I'm thinking right now is like you have brain waves, right? Which, you know, are squiggly. It would be cool to have some sort of like wave projection on the wall that is, you know, like of ocean waves that's correlated to that or something. But you can also show them a graph of their brain data and say, this is happening right now. And this, you know, X is doing Y, X is executing Y, right? But that's cool, yeah.
I thank you so much for the information.
Yeah, if you want specific links, email us, the BCI guys at Gmail.
I will.
Cool. Thanks. Look forward to it. Thanks for your question.
Sure. There's one architect. Her name is Isabella as well. She what she was doing. I mean, she did one project which is quite interesting, where she was actually kind of mapping the heartbeats of the people to the actual space. So the walls of the space that you would go in were actually just beating, following your heart rate. And then she was like demonstrating in a very extreme way your kind of heart rate, and then you will be able to immediately perceive when you're more relaxed and when you're more stressed and stuff like that. Her name is Isabella Pasqualini, by the way.
Okay.
I mean, of course, the project is much deeper than that, but you can definitely find it. You can take a look.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I just realized that we actually crossed our time. That yeah, so that's fine. I would just. Jenny, love the idea of using signals influencing interaction and public space. So cool. Jenny, do you want to say something? Okay. Should be fine. So yeah, I think we're just like, I can't, sorry, small humans in the background, but you guys are doing awesome stuff. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna share that again. Hopefully that's okay.
Sure, exactly. I was gonna ask you for this. So yeah, definitely. You guys, like, you have these where you can actually reach out the BCI guys. Definitely, you can check the content on NeuroTechEDU. On NeuroTechEDU and NeurotechX, feel free to join the actual community. And yeah, it was great having you all. Thank you for your time. I've posted all the links that came across in the chat in the actual meetup event. So if anybody wants to follow up on any of the links, they're just available as comments in the meetup link. I'll mention again that this was streaming on YouTube and it's staying there. So if anybody came late or you'd like to share the session with someone else, feel free to share the YouTube link on the NeuroTechX YouTube channel.
Great. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks it was great to chat.
Yeah. So thanks everyone. Thank you guys for joining, and have a good night or a good day wherever you are in the world.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Stay safe.
Awkward moment. Not sure. Not sure if we're talking afterwards. Just saying.
No, I'm just closing the whole thing.
Sounds good.
Okay. Take care.
Yeah, so.
Bye-bye.